Have you eaten yet? In my family, that's not a question about food. It's how we say, I love you, I'm worried about you, and are you all right? All in 3 words. My mother has asked me that question thousands of times in my life. She asked it when I passed my exams. She asked it when I failed them. She asked it the day I moved out, the day I got married, and the day I called her crying about something I couldn't even explain. Have you eaten yet? If you grew up in a Chinese household, you already feel this in your chest. If you didn't, stay with me, because I'm going to translate, and by the end of this video, you might see your own family, whatever culture you come from, a little differently. Here's what outsiders see. They see a Chinese mother standing over the table, filling bowls before anyone asks, saying, eat more, why aren't you eating? You're too thin, one more piece. They see a father who barely speaks all dinner, but somehow the best cut of meat keeps landing in his son's bowl. They see a kid who says, I'm full, and gets told gently but firmly that, no, he isn't. And they call it controlling. They call it food pressure. They write articles about it, and look, I'm not going to pretend there's nothing there. We'll get to the shadow side because this channel doesn't do fairy tales. But first, you need to understand what's actually happening at that table, because most of the criticism comes from people hearing the words and missing the meaning entirely. Start with the history because it explains almost everything. My grandmother lived through famine, we were a bit short on groceries, famine. The kind where you remember decades later exactly what your family ate to survive and exactly who didn't survive. Her generation and the one after it carried something in their bodies that no lecture about nutrition could ever touch. The knowledge that food is not guaranteed, that a full table is not normal, that a full table is a victory. When my grandmother put food in my bowl, she wasn't managing my diet. She was performing a small miracle she never stopped being amazed by. Look, we have enough. We have more than enough, and I get to give it to you. You cannot understand a Chinese dinner table without understanding that behind every eat more is a memory, sometimes only one generation back, of not having anything to give. Now add the second layer, language, or rather, the absence of it. In a lot of Chinese families, mine included, you do not say, I love you out loud. It's not that the love isn't there. It's that saying it feels almost embarrassing, too naked, too Western, too much like something from a movie. My father has never once said those words to me, not once in my entire life. And I have never doubted for a single day that he loves me. Because the love doesn't come out of the mouth. It goes onto the plate. Think about what it actually takes to feed someone well. My mother would go to the market early when the fish was freshest, because she knew which stall had the best ones and the good ones sold out by 9. She would spend an hour cleaning and preparing something my brother and I would eat in 10 minutes. She would watch which dishes we reached for, silently keeping records in her head. He likes the ribs, she doesn't touch the bitter melon, and the next week the table would quietly reflect what she'd learned. Nobody announced any of this. Nobody said, I paid attention to you. The attention just showed up as dinner. And then there's the gesture I think about most, the best piece placed in your bowl before you can reach for it. If you know, you know. The fish cheek, the most tender piece of chicken, the first and biggest strawberry. In a Chinese family, you can trace the entire architecture of love by watching where the best pieces go. My mother gave hers to my father. My father gave his to me. I pretended not to notice because noticing would make it a thing, and we don't make things a thing. But I noticed every single time I noticed. The cut fruit deserves its own paragraph, honestly. If you have Chinese parents, you know the scene. You've just had a fight, real anger, doors closed, silence in the house. Nobody's going to apologize because apologizing out loud is roughly as likely as saying, I love you out loud. And then, an hour later, there's a knock and a plate of cut fruit appears in your room. Orange segments, apple slices, peeled, because you once mentioned years ago that you don't like the skin. Nobody says anything. The fruit is the apology, the fruit is the I'm sorry, and the I still love you, and the are we okay? You eat the fruit, that means yes, we're okay. The entire reconciliation happens without a single word, and somehow it's one of the most emotionally articulate exchanges I've ever been part of. So when Western observers look at all this and see food obsession, here's my honest response. You're looking at a language you don't speak and concluding that nothing is being said. Everything is being said. It's just being said in fish and rice and cut oranges instead of in words. In a culture where directness about feelings is uncomfortable, where vulnerability is something you protect your family from, not something you perform for them. The meal becomes the entire emotional channel. Have you eaten yet means I'm thinking about you. Eat more means I want you to be strong and safe. Packing containers of food into your bag when you leave means I can't come with you, but my care can. That container of dumplings on the train home from a visit? That's a love letter. It just happens to be edible. And there's something else the table does, something I didn't appreciate until I left home and lost it. Every single night, no exceptions, my family stopped and sat down together. My father could be exhausted. My mother could be annoyed with all of us. My brother and I could be in the middle of some idiotic feud. Didn't matter. At dinner time, everyone assembled. No phones at my mother's table, ever. And this was true before phones and truer after them. For one meal a day, the family was simply in one place, at one time, facing each other. Most nights, nothing important was said. We talked about school, about the neighbors, about whether the soup needed more salt. But here's what I understand now. The content of the conversation was never the point. The assembly was the point. It was a daily physical confirmation that we were a unit, that no matter what happened out there, this table would be here and everyone would be at it. Researchers have spent years confirming what my mother enforced by instinct, that regular family meals are linked to kids who feel more secure, communicate more, and struggle less. But my mother never read a study in her life. She just knew that a family that eats together stays legible to each other. You can hide a lot from your parents, but it's hard to hide it every night. Across the table, over soup, she could read my whole week and how I ate, eating fast and leaving. Something's wrong at school, not touching my favorite dish. Something's really wrong. The dinner table was her diagnostic tool, and she was frighteningly accurate with it. I didn't appreciate any of this at the time. I want to be honest about that. As a kid, I found the table oppressive some nights. I wanted to eat in my room like the kids in American shows. I wanted a mother who said, "I love you" at the door like the TV mothers did. And I sometimes resented the version I had, who expressed everything through a bowl and expected me to do the translation. It took me becoming a parent myself, standing in my own kitchen at 6 a.m, cutting fruit for a boy who will eat it in 90 seconds without looking up, to feel the full weight of what she was doing all those years. Now I'm rebuilding that table in my own home on purpose every night. Same rule, everyone sits, no phones, one meal where the family is simply assembled. My son rolls his eyes at it sometimes. That's fine, I rolled mine too. He'll understand it exactly the moment I did, about 25 years from now, holding a knife and an apple. But now let me do what this channel exists to do, which is tell you the whole truth, including the part that doesn't flatter us. Because this love language has a shadow side, and pretending it doesn't would be a fairy tale. Food as love can tip into food as pressure, and the line between them is thinner than we like to admit. Eat more is love right up until the moment the child genuinely cannot eat more, and then it becomes something else. An obligation, a performance, a test. I grew up with the clean plate rule, and I understand exactly where it came from. To my grandmother's generation, leaving food was almost a moral offense, an insult to scarcity itself. But a rule born in famine doesn't automatically make sense at a table of abundance. Teaching a child to override their own fullness night after night teaches them that their body's signals matter less than someone else's feelings. That's a lesson that follows people into adulthood, and not in a good way. And then there's the commentary. Anyone raised at a Chinese table knows that the same mouth offering you the best piece of fish can, in the same breath, comment on your weight with a bluntness that would make a Western pediatrician faint. You've gotten fat, you're too skinny, no one will marry you. It's said casually, without malice, often while physically handing you more food, which is its own special kind of confusing. The parent believes they're expressing care, monitoring you, noticing you. The child often receives it as judgment served alongside dinner, love and criticism plated together until they're hard to separate. I know adults, decades out of their childhood homes, who still hear their mother's voice every time they look at a menu. That's not a small thing, and I won't pretend it is. So here's what I actually do in my own house, because I refuse to choose between throwing away my culture and repeating its mistakes wholesale. I keep the full table. I keep the best piece ritual, and my son gets the fish cheek, and someday he'll notice and pretend he didn't. I keep the cut fruit, the packed containers, the "have you eaten yet" text he'll get for the rest of his life, whether he likes it or not. But I drop the clean plate rule. When my son says he's full, he's full. His body, his signal, his call. I dropped the weight commentary entirely. Not softened it, dropped it. The table in my house is where he gets fed and noticed, never where he gets measured. Keep the meaning, lose the pressure. Love shouldn't come with a guilt tax, and it turns out the fish tastes exactly the same without one. What surprised me is that the tradition survives the editing just fine. I used to worry that if I removed the pressure, the whole thing would collapse, that the intensity was somehow structural. It isn't. The love was never in the forcing. The love was in the noticing, the preparing, the assembling, the giving. All of that transfers perfectly. My son is growing up inside the same language of care I did. He's just not getting the parts of the grammar that hurt. If anything, the signal is cleaner now. When I put food in his bowl, there's nothing else writing on it. It just means what it always secretly meant. I thought about you before you woke up. I want you to be okay. And here's the part I want to leave you with. Whether or not you have a single drop of connection to Chinese culture, every family has a language like this. Maybe in your house it wasn't food. Maybe it was your father checking your car's tires without being asked, or your mother clipping articles she thought you'd like, or someone always making sure your coat was warm enough, your phone was charged, your gas tank wasn't empty. Care that never announces itself. Love that hides inside logistics. Most of us spend years fluent in the spoken languages of our families and completely illiterate in the unspoken ones. And then we wonder why we felt unloved by people who were, in their own dialect, saying it constantly. Learning to hear it doesn't excuse everything. Some things said in that dialect were genuinely harmful, and you're allowed to name that. But a lot of us are walking around with decades of unread love letters because nobody taught us they were letters at all. So the next time a Chinese mother, yours, your friends, your mother-in-law, asks if you've eaten yet, understand what's actually being said. You're being told you're loved. You're being told someone is thinking about your well-being in the most fundamental way one human can think about another's. Are you fed? Are you okay? Are you all right out there? Answer honestly. Better yet, ask her back. Watch what happens on her face when someone finally speaks her language to her. If this video shifted something in the way you see food and family, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more on how the world's wisest cultures quietly build connection that lasts a lifetime, subscribe. There's a lot more coming. See you in the next one.